Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. See the instructions at the top of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C30A Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Phil, I just want you to know I'm doing my audio backup recording.
Okay, great, thank you. And roll call vote. Anne?
Here.
Richard?
Here.
Milena?
Here.
Madonna?
Here.
And Phil Orenstein is here as well. Committee member announcements or statements. Does anyone have anything to say?
Nothing.
Okay, next on the agenda, very quickly, just keep everyone straight with their schedules. Here's the just copied over the schedule of the upcoming budget sessions. Very similar to prior years. There's been some work in the background with Chris as the quarterback to try to allocate the various agenda items to the various days, trying to figure out a way to make it as efficient as possible and probably balance things out as much as possible so that hopefully in the earlier meetings when we have a little more energy, we can get some more things done and vice versa.
I have a question. I think
Sure.
we raised last time the need to receive the materials a little bit earlier. Are we able to do it? Was everything going on right now?
Well, yes, from my perspective, there's been a lot of work, very diligent work done at the staff level, really over the last several months to try to address that concern that we had from last year. So staff has been very attentive to that. And there's been a lot of sort of back and forth communications on that point. So the hope and expectation is we'll get them earlier than last year. That being said, a key part of it is the school budget numbers, and those are a bit out of the control of our staff. So that remains a bit of an open point. Chris, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, thanks, Phil. We should be on track to give you the budgets beforehand. If for some reason the school is seriously delayed, we'll give you an estimate with a very conservatively, with an estimated school budget, and we'll just have to go from there, unless you want to push everything back. But
No, I don't think we need to do that. So I think the estimate as a backup.
So worst
plan
comes
is a
to
good
worst,
idea.
we'll just estimate the school budget, but should be fine. And we're planning, I think Allie and I talked about using PDFs this year, or was that not a full binder? Is that the case for all of you?
I haven't heard that, but I'm totally fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
if
I
you
would
need a hard
certainly
copy,
support that.
we can
Would
do a hard
help
copy.
definitely the timing of
Yeah,
it.
that was the binders are a big undertaking in terms of time and money. So I would certainly support skipping that step. But
I will say that I have a much harder time being organized with a PDF version of
Okay.
such a document.
Mhm.
I'm happy to do all the inserts and all that stuff. If you could just do one printout, that would be most appreciated.
I'd like a binder as well.
Yeah, that's what we were, Phil and I were talking about a few months back, that maybe the first initial round of it, just so that you have something to look at right from the jump, a PDF version of it.
Okay,
before- Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, one thing
but then
that
I'll do printed ones. I can do printed
Okay.
ones.
I mean, one thing that I think is a challenge is that in the printed one, there are tabs and there's no tabs in the PDF. And then, so when we refer to tabs for those who are using PDFs,
Mhm.
so, you know, I don't know what the solution there is, but.
Actually, there is, if you go back to the
Organize it.
contents page and you
Yeah.
click on the tab on the contents page, it'll bring you right to it on the
Yeah.
PDF.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
you-
Okay.
Yeah, I
you can
put all the
probably
links in.
organize it.
if
Yeah.
we have it a little earlier, we may be able to
Yeah.
work with it on our own and
Yeah,
see how
yeah.
much we really need a hard copy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But we won't make any changes to it this year, so that we can see how it goes both ways. How about that?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, well, since you need to do all the work, I'll let you make that call, yeah. Okay, we'll move to approval of minutes.
I'll make,
So there are two that we have to dust off here. We have the minutes back from our last meeting in September. That's back, that's in the packet.
I reviewed the September minutes and I didn't see any changes that I required, so I would move that we accept them as printed unless anyone else has anything to say.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call vote. Anne,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Madonna,
I,
Madalena,
Hi.
and it's unanimous. And then after that, being very detail oriented here, these are the minutes that are an excerpt from the minutes of the joint Select Board Finance Committee meeting back in July.
I reviewed those as well, and our part of this meeting was quite contained.
Yes,
It
yes.
seems that I don't see any need for any revision. So I would move that be this of Monday, July 8th combined meeting with the select board be approved as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Anne,
Aye.
Malena,
Hi.
Madonna,
I,
Richard,
Aye.
and it's unanimous. Okay, so then we will, if Ross is there, can move to the reserve account request from the assessor's office.
I'm just promoting Ross up.
Hello?
Ross?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the request for the, I think it's $4,950. Last year, obviously, we put money in the budget for our consultant to assist us in uploading our extract into Munis so that we can create the tax files to get the bills out on time. Later in the year, Munis did an upgrade, which caused us to have to do a little extra work that we weren't planning on. You know, we weren't aware that that upgrade was coming. And so it cost us a little bit more time in getting the extract to upload properly, make sure everything balanced properly, and so on. And so this is to cover that additional time that our consultant and I had to spend on this.
So this is the money for the consultant?
Yes.
And this is, oh, can I ask you? Go ahead, Rich.
No, please, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I know that we had anticipated extra money for this in our budget for the current year, but you're saying that it was actually more work than originally anticipated.
Correct.
May I ask how many hours this equates to?
I don't have it right in front of me. I mean, I think we spent roughly I think it's like $1,400 a day with this guy, so maybe like an extra 4 days or something, 3, 4 days.
Okay.
I guess I will make a motion that we transfer $4,950 from the reserve fund to the contracted services for the assessor's upgrade.
Second,
Question, Allison, just for, if you have it handy, I don't think we've used any of the reserve accounts so far this year.
No,
under-
you haven't. This is
Okay.
the first.
All right, so I know there's some other things on the horizon that might need the reserve account, so we have $95,000 left, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so roll call vote. Anne,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Madonna,
I,
Milena,
aye.
and it is unanimous. So
Thank you very much, everyone.
you're welcome, Ross. Okay. So then on the agenda, we have the operating budget report from the town accountant. Although that's half of your title, Allison. So
Yes, I have a slash.
I was struggling on how to put that in the agenda correctly, but I'm not looking to minimize your role in any way. So, you noted that it's through December. One process question is you noted that it's sort of not sort of fully closed for 23.
24.
For 24 rather, for fiscal.
I actually have excellent news. I was able to close this weekend, actually, on Saturday.
Congratulations.
So,
All right, so that means that whatever was preventing that from happening got resolved, which was a good thing.
done. Mhm.
Okay. All right, so I guess has sort of the external audit been sort of chugging in the background, waiting for that sort of closing to occur?
Yes, I believe Tom mentioned sometime February. He
Okay,
was talking, depending on what other towns he has in the schedule. So
okay,
we were thankfully ahead of schedule as far as that's concerned. It did take me a little longer than I would have liked, but
okay. Richard?
Will we be getting the full year's report soon then?
yes,
or-
indeed. Yes. Yep. I
Okay.
plan on in probably the next week or so, sending you one that is a June 30, so that you have the end of year for FY 24.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the budget reports?
Can I
do, yes,
just ask
sorry.
for a couple budget lines, and again, I don't think too many surprises here, but just under public buildings, I see that we're already over budget in the repairs line. Do you want me to put these up or?
yes, could you?
Okay, so,
And if you have questions about specific departments, we can take them back to the department heads unless we
Okay.
have the answers.
okay.
I, okay, I have a question about the legal expenses. And
Oh, yes,
yeah, and I also, is my understanding that the litigation continues on some of these issues, and so wanted to know what is our expectation for the rest of the year, fiscal year, I should say.
Why don't we
Chris?
take Anne's question first, if Allison has an answer.
I thought it was going to the department, but whatever, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
let me see. So building is on page 5.
Okay.
If the question is why is it over budget, we'll have to ask the department head.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe is here. Do you want me to?
Well, if Joe can speak to it, or he could ask to come back with an answer. Well, let's give him that option if he's on the call.
Yeah, I can't share and look at, so give me 1 second.
Just keep in mind that some things may just be encumbered. There may be encumbrances that are taking the overall budget over. So those encumbrances will be lowered. You know, they'll do a blanket encumbrance at the beginning of the year for supplies or electricity or something, and those fluctuate, and the encumbrances can be increased or reduced as needed. They're not actual expenses, and sometimes they represent contracted things we have to do. Sometimes it's just reserving funds for things that might be necessary.
Okay, so it doesn't seem Joe can participate at this point. Okay. But because it's over, well, and again, I'm just thinking this is half the year, and so I just don't know where we're gonna be, and I'm thinking again about the reserve fund. So now Joe has raised his hand. All right, go ahead.
Joe, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
So you're looking at line item 52,410 buildings, repairs, buildings and grounds.
Correct, yep.
yes.
Mhm.
Right, so if you look at that and then you look at like contracted services, a couple down from that. The thing is, I think we need, over the years to come, we need to do some fine tuning of the accounts. Because when you engage someone to do a repair on the building, is it a building repair, is it a contracted service? So is it a contract, because sometimes you have a contract with them, sometimes you're calling them in on a time and material basis. So
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
think some of that is it being placed in one line item and not another line item.
Mm,
And I think some of it's, like Chris said, is encumbered money that's not actually spent yet. But clearly we are spending more in buildings repairs than's budgeted. But the overall budget will reposition monies as the year goes on to
Okay.
cover.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
So
Good to know.
we're taking that entire budget and we're projecting it out for the full 12 months, and we're watching it to make sure.
Okay.
But just so you're aware, we're fixing things right. We're not putting Band-Aids on and taking the cheap way out just because it's the cheap way out.
I think we can tell. We can tell any work that we see done seems to be very, very well done. So
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so I have a question for Chris Rambo about the legal fees.
So that's here, this line right here?
Yeah, thanks, yeah.
53020.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any issues or any concerns about that line?
A lot of that line is encumbrances for expenses we expect to incur.
Right, but I mean, is there any issue with any ongoing litigation that we will be incurring some additional legal expenses that more than was budgeted for?
It's I can't really answer that at this time. It's tough to predict that. I'm sorry, I can't give you a good answer.
Well, my personal observation is that legal fees will be high because we have a lot of ongoing litigation.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that. Yeah, totally.
Between
Yeah.
the Houstonic water matter and the cannabis matter, there's the school, elementary school litigation. So there's unfortunately a fair amount of legal proceedings going on in the background, or just litigation matters. So this bill will be high. So just my personal expectation is that at some point there'll be a request to use the reserve account monies in some form for that overage. So
Yeah. Thanks, Phil. That was my concern also. Yeah.
If I could ask another quick question, so for fire department, no surprise, overtime is over budget. And I think we can all guess why. I'm actually
Mhm.
surprised. Is this do we anticipate that this budget will go much higher, given how the sort of dealing with the hillside fire? Any sense on where that's at?
Will it, well, I'm not sure, so if there's another fire, yes, I'm not sure I'm following your question.
I guess,
completely.
does what's in this budget now include the cost of addressing that fire, or should we expect that that's gonna get even higher? Does anyone?
Oh, that I don't know, we were,
I would
Ellie,
say
what
the
you-
salaries probably are,
the
because we would have
salaries,
had,
expenses were in a
overtime, yeah,
separate,
yeah.
account, yeah.
I guess the maybe the larger question, which I don't think any of us can answer at this point, is will we be able to pay, meet basically comply with the budget this year without some other outside assistance between the costs associated with the forest fire and some of the legal matters going on. That could entail a significant amount of unanticipated expense. So I'm not expecting you to have an answer to that question, but I think that's just something we should all be aware of. I mean, if this year is like other years, then there'll be hopefully other parts of the budget where expenses came in below expectation, and that those can be reallocated as we get to the end of the fiscal year. But again, I think we'll see.
Rachel, sorry, I have a question about is, are we also paying for the firefighters from other communities who came to help, or how does it work usually? Do we know?
I'm not completely sure, Milena, so I'll have to get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we can ask that the chief at the first budget meeting, so when he appears, yeah. All right, those are my major questions, those are my.
Okay, as a general matter, I think we all have a lot of questions on the budget, but I think it really, given where we are in the calendar, it makes sense to kind of wait and direct those questions towards the department heads that we meet with during the budget meetings. But I'm not trying to get people to stop talking tonight, but that's certainly the way I'm looking at it. Okay, I think that's thank you for putting that together, Allison, and thank you for
Sure.
being able to close the fiscal year.
and actually, I wanted to ask you, since now that I have closed, would you like me to rerun this report and resend it so that the encumbrances are correct? For the
Uh,
mid-year point?
I would like to see it.
Okay, no problem.
Mm.
I'll get that out to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But getting the full year report for the year ended in June 30th of 24 would be very helpful for the budget process.
Mm-hmm,
And
for
then,
sure.
and then Allison, you'll just include that with the budget booklet, that way it's publicly available, what we're seeing as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is our update to the user guide to the taxpayer's receipt box in the real estate bill. And just to take a step back and just refresh what this is and what this is not. This was put together by the Finance Committee last year. And a fair amount of work was put into it, particularly by Anne and by myself a bit, and also by the staff in responding to our questions. Actually, the staff, the town staff, as well as the fire district staff. And all this is intended to be is, hopefully, as it is titled, just to help people understand all the boxes and numbers that are included in the tax bill that we all just received a few weeks ago. It's not there's a fair amount going on in that box, and it's not all immediately intuitively obvious. I I thought I knew it all, and then the course of the year I kind of forgot certain things, so it was a useful reminder for me. So we put this together last year, and Chris was not really aware of it, but the staff spent a fair amount of time, and Mark was involved on an oversight level, and And then ultimately we put it on the website, and we don't know who used it. Hopefully it clarified some things to people, and hopefully saved a few phone calls to the town staff to make their day a little more efficient. So, and that's all it's intended to do. It's really not a statement about the budget, taxes being good or being bad, about the budget being wrong or right. It's just sort of, what do the numbers mean, and how does the arithmetic work in the tax bill? So, Anne reminded me that we should put out an updated version of it. She's totally correct. And there's very few changes relative to last year's version. And she took a stab at making those changes. And it's a dense page, so there's a few other things need to be corrected. I think the fire district tax, which is now $1.50 mill rate, that has to be updated in the text associated with line 1, where it still has that 1.59
Oh,
from
thank
last
you,
year.
Phil. Sorry about that. Yep.
No, no,
Yep.
no need to apologize. And so I think that was the one change, one correction that I saw. But 98% of this page is unchanged from last year. The other thing that Anne brought up, just as a point of clarification, is that infamous 2%. Is that?
So like last year, there
Yeah.
was an adjustment or an estimated increase in Q1 and Q2 by 2%. And this year, there was no increase. And so I think Phil and I just, I think one of the things I did was I took that out, the 2%, but I think I'm going to put the sentence back in and just say that 0%, just so there's consistency from year to year. I mean, I wasn't actually planning on doing an update because I thought, people could plug in new numbers, but I couldn't get my tax bill to match what I thought. So that's when I realized there was a 0% increase for Q1 and Q2 this year, estimated increase. So I think I'll put that in there so anybody who's trying to do their calculations can do it. I have a spreadsheet that I run every year for myself, and it's complicated. There's a lot to put in and calculate. So just knowing all these values, I think, is helpful to people.
And sorry, I have a question. I'm a bit confused. So
Yeah.
what you are really saying is that there was no change in the tax for the last 2 quarters, correct?
For the first 2 quarters. So the way it works, and anyone should feel free to jump in, but just so I can, so the way it works is that they take the tax from the previous year and divide it in 4.
4, yes.
And then that's what determines the Q1 and Q2 tax amount. But in past years, we've added in either 2.5% or 2% increase to sort of distribute the tax increase across the year.
Oh, I
This
see.
year, we didn't do the increase. So whatever your tax was,
It was the tax.
of the year, you just divide it by 4, and that's your Q1 and Q2 payment. Then the tax increase for this year is all in Q3 and Q4.
Okay, so we are saying the increase those 2 numbers, the third and fourth quarter, would be higher because that's where the increase is going to be showing. The Q1, Q2 will be using the numbers from the previous year, whatever. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's hard to wrap one's mind around, but it is very clear. And I think I applaud your idea that you just want to change numbers and not a lot of wording.
Exactly.
So that a user who may have used this for the previous tax bill won't be confused. We'll have one less confusion.
One less confusion, right?
Yeah, and it's also that a lot of people spent a lot of time editing this last year, and we're not trying to go through that again. The idea is that this should save time for people.
Yes.
Presumably if someone calls the staff and has a lot of questions about their bill, the staff will have the option, not the obligation, but just the option to say, oh, by the way, there's this one pager on the Finance Committee webpage, and you can take a look at it and it might help you. So,
I think it's very helpful.
so Allison and Chris, if you could just, when you can, I know you have 1,200 other things going on, but if you could just take a look at it, and sign off on it, it would be great to put it, the updated version on the website.
Great.
And,
And could you just make sure you email them?
I
And I
will.
want to check that February 1st due date since that's a Saturday. So
Yes, I was,
Right.
yes,
Oh,
same
we'll
thing.
adjust that.
Okay, no
Mhm.
problem. And I did want to just, one thing I just want to share with you that I changed also, because I don't, in the one from last year, you'll note right up here, there's this 00 here. I don't know why that's there. So that's gone here because that shouldn't be there. So I just want you to note that I think that was a typo from last year.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
ask
But
staff to review it. And
yeah, the other
shouldn't
thing
take
I
too
can do,
long.
I
As you
can
said, you've already
highlight,
done a lot of work.
I can highlight every place there's a number so that you're not looking at the words, you're just looking at the numbers.
yeah, no, I mean,
Or-
and
or
I
the
sent
dates.
Chris and Allison a handmade yellow markup of the changes.
Oh, okay.
So if you should have that, if you might want to just take a look at that, and if you're adding anything, let's just help them expedite their review.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right.
That's what's going on there. So it's not reducing
Right.
anyone's tax bill, but at least you understand it.
Right. And Phil, I will update the Word document to make the correction you just noted.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Okay, so I think that's concluded. I think we're going to go off the agenda and give Richard the option of updating us as he sees fit on the CPA process. I think Chris and Allison, if you wanted to chime out at this point, we wouldn't hold it against you. It's up to you.
Thank you. I'll just give you a brief
Right.
summary of what proposals we are sending to the voters for the yearly town meeting from the CPC. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 requests for funding, and we 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We put proposals for 8 of them. Basically, things that had to do with historical preservation that could be handled through CPC funds and not put into the regular budget. We tried to fund those, including park equipment upgrades, in the hope that doing this on a regular basis, as we see that Department of Public Works is attempting to do, is the best way to keep the equipment in the parks in its best operating position. We funded a small amount for Berkshire Natural Resources Council to improve a certain trail system, which extends one trail system that we already have and connects it with another. That was very helpful. We request funding of part of the roof of the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House in Housatonic. Just the front part of the roof we felt was the best use of funds. Preserving the Mason Library sconces was another. Preserving the clamshell at the entrance of the library. We decided to put for the voters $150,000 towards creating 2 more affordable housing units in the Marble Block, mainly because we had put some funding towards that last year, and the quality of the work and the affordability of it for the residents has been exceptional. And so we felt it is really working very well. The largest item that we agreed to was $375,000 towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as a first step towards having the Affordable Housing Trust Fund be the first place for people to go for affordable housing requests. Rather than, there may be some instances where CPC gets those requests as well, but I think over time, we believe the Affordable Housing Trust will be the people that review most of those requests. Does anybody have any more specific questions? I can tell you that it was a matter of $900,000 that we had to propose. Does anyone have any other specific questions that I may not have covered in detail enough?
I have a question, Richard.
Of course.
So first of all, I think I really like that you guys spread the money across so many different type of projects. I think that's fantastic. And that's the kind of a question you and we discussed it last year, and that's was the issue I had with the money that was given to the real estate developer upfront for basically providing the apartments at the affordable rate going forward. And I think my request was that the amount be discounted, because it's really, we are comparing, present and future cash flow. So that would be my comment here. So I don't know, whoever is handling that particular, request on your committee, maybe that's something to discuss with them, because I think we didn't do it last time, but I think we really need to do it correctly. So that
we did certainly, the majority of our discussion was on the 3 requests for affordable housing. We knew starting the process that we wanted to balance historic and recreation and affordable housing. We felt there was sort of a need last year that affordable housing got the bulk. But in this particular instance, there were a lot of projects that the town needs to do that are either for recreation or for historic preservation, which I think this money just keeps it out of the general budget and helps us in both ways. And I think supporting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which has made great strides in making clear how the funds are managed and for what programs they're using it. And the programs seem to be extremely well thought out. And so that's in a nutshell where we are.
Right. No, I totally agree with everything you said. I think you guys are, taking the right strategy here. I really think the Affordable Housing Fund for us is the right place. But my only suggestion was, in terms of coming up with the numbers, that the number that's going to the private developer, because we are giving them the money upfront for future benefits. It just needs to be discounted at the appropriate discount rate. They're just that's just purely finance. That's no question about the validity or the merits of the particular project. It's just kind of a financial comment here. Yeah.
Any other questions regarding CPC's work to date?
Richard, is there any update you have off the top of your head on the size of the state match for these funds?
That might be a better question for Rembold to answer, but his comment to us was that the match plus the money coming in from our sources directly conservatively came up to 900,000. So as a percentage, I don't know, but Chris may have a better breakdown for you on that. Is that your question?
The state contribution that's received in November, it's received every November based on local collections from the previous year. This November's collection from the state was just over 200,000. If anybody wants to see the applications that Rich was talking about, they are listed on the town website under boards and committees on the Community Preservation Committee page. the very first item in the sidebar on that page is applications to be recommended to May town meeting. So
Great.
you can find more info there.
Thank you, Richard. Any other
Thank you very
questions for
much.
Richard? Okay, I think that concludes our agenda. Do we have any citizens on the call who want to speak?
Yep. Jay Bailey, I will load up to talk.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have a question for whoever can answer it. What is the percentage of state matched towards the CPA?
Yeah, Mr. Bailey, I actually heard your comments last night, so I did a little of my own research on that. So they're points well taken. I can't give you a definitive answer, and I'll defer to Chris if he knows it off the top of his head, but it's really not a fixed number every year. It's sort of based on a specified revenue stream that comes into the state, which they then allocate out to the various town CPC programs. So one challenge is that if you have more towns adopting the CPA, then the state has more mouths to feed for that specific revenue stream. So the amount of money that each of the towns gets is sort of reduced by that proportion. So that's one comment that I would make, speaking for myself, based on my research. And then also what I'd say is you brought up a very important point last night about sort of how was that state match, I guess, disclosed, for lack of a better word, to the residents when the CPA was initially adopted by Great Barrington, which was a while ago. And you brought up a good point. I just looked at that warrant myself, and there was no, what I'll note is there was no specific guarantee or statement as to what that state match would be.
So at that time, you believe that there was nothing in writing that the voters approved a percentage. We didn't approve a percentage that the state was going to reimburse us. There was no specific amount.
Right. And again,
We
speaking
all
for
agreed.
myself, I'm sorry to interrupt. Speaking for myself, I just took a look at it because you made a very good point that I was interested in. And I just looking at the town warrant, I didn't see that there was any specific amount in that warrant language.
Okay, so what I think needs to happen, and to be abundantly clear and transparent in all of this, in spreading CPA funds or before CPA funds are voted on, I think it needs to be made very clear to the taxpayers and the voters of the community exactly how much the state, and I don't care if it's a guesstimate, it needs to be damn well accurate, because if we voted to approve the CPA based on a specific amount or under the guise that at that point, I think that year they only paid 51% that year that it was approved. We saw amounts as low as 11% matched funds. Now, in my opinion, if the state's only going to match us 11%, then we should take out only 11% from the CPA tax, because that's the only fair way to do it. We were under a guise or the under assumption that the state was going to match this program. And I think the state has failed us. I don't think the community has failed to pay its part. I think it's the state. But I think, I really think either we repeal the CPA or you make it abundantly clear to the voters how much the state's on the hook for. Because you're not going to get the taxpayers to pay any more tax if the state isn't going to hold their end of the bargain. You know, every year I can tell you what the tax rate is. Every year I can tell you what the tax bill is. Every year I can't tell you what the state of Massachusetts is going to pay into this program we agreed to. Does anybody else find fault in that? So before we consider rescinding, because the 5 years is up, it can go to vote. Repealing the CPA, dropping the CPA to the 1.5% minimum altogether, or people need to get brutally honest. Because this is ridiculous. Like I said, I don't know what the average, I'm just assuming $500 on the low side. That $500 could go a long way. We're talking about affordable housing. Well, how about we keep the people here? That $500 could keep the people here. It could pay their tax bill, an oil bill, electric bills. Let's not be foolish with people's money. Be honest to them. That's all I'm asking. And like I said, I'll be the first one to file a citizen's petition, and I'll have 800 people at that meeting, and we'll have it removed. I think you people need to be extremely honest with the taxpayers and the voters. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just, I will, I certainly agree that the amount of the state match should be readily available to those who are interested in knowing it. It's just based on my personal research, it is I mean, a lot of the mechanics of the CPA are complex, and it's not that easy to get that information. So I think let me be clear, we're absolutely, as far as I know, we're absolutely following the rules, the state regulations on the CPA process. So we're doing it the right way. It's just, that match is very much of an annual, it varies year to year pretty significantly. I think it's based on revenue from real estate tax sales, so it definitely varies year to year. So and hopefully, I think it would be good to make that number a little more available to residents. So we can follow up on that.
Just not to respond directly, but the CPC's report to town meeting is available on the CPC page every year. And that's abundantly clear on what the state contribution was and how the bills are calculated and what the average bill is. So feel free to check that out, but happy to follow up, Jim, later.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another person, so I'll just promote them up and I'll promote down. Okay.
Hi, Dion Waldrick
Yep.
here for
Yep.
Long Pond Drive. I would like to also suggest that this nasty habit of funding private enterprises for affordable housing in toto upfront is not fair and appropriate. I think it's one thing if you say you're going to pay a developer or owner of an apartment building X dollars per year for having an affordable apartment, but I can't think of another place where they get the money all up front for X years. It just sounds irrational and as if people are really willing to throw money around, which we don't actually have. So I would agree with the previous speaker that there needs to be a much more rational approach to the CPC throwing money around and wanting to throw most of it at affordable housing when we really haven't even defined as a community what our plans are for affordable housing and who we're trying to help. And just another vote in that regard. And I think it's something that should be brought up. Otherwise, it's time for a referendum to see if we change the way we do business in Great Barrington. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll just promote somebody else up.
Good evening. This is James Garzone, 84 North Plain Road. I just want to say you can hear a lot of people frustrated and with these tax bills, and especially with what we have in our future with the school, with the water, with the roads. I just say thank you for what you're doing, and your work is vital, especially your input. Your input on the school that's going to be voted on, your input on other matters. Your view and your insight holds a lot of weight, and I appreciate that. And just hope that when you do make an opinion or a statement, it's in the lens of how it's impacting, our entire community. We are all in the state that we just can't afford anymore living here, and it's really painful. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody else. Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry. James, sorry to leave you up there. I'm just trying to bring a hand and then disable talking.
Okay, do we have, anyone else?
Give me just 1 second. I'm having a little trouble with my
Okay.
screen. But I don't think so. I don't see any other hands up. No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay, well, media time. Okay, seeing
No.
none, unless anyone has any further comment, I'll do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I'll assume that's anonymous. I mean,
Anonymous.
I'll assume everyone agrees. Sorry, that's wrong.
All
You know
right.
what I mean.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye all.